Hello, it's Larana live from the very center of the universe, Canton, Ohio, and it's time for Rose Garden Radio. And if this is your first time, Rose Garden Radio is dedicated to helping you shift from what we call 3D, your ordinary life right now, to 5D, living your dream life fully from your heart. And a lot of times I do a lot of times I do what's called a pie story, PIE. But today I'm going to jump right into reading from A Weekend with Aunt Larana, which is my young adult first volume in a series of young adult books um, that's dedicated basically to the same things that we're discovering and doing right here on the channel. So thank you for helping me with this deep editorial dive. And without any further ado, let's start where I left off. And that was Aunt Larana was out in the garden and discovered that the house had time traveled back to 1778 to France, to the day of the ambassador's ball at Versailles, where Benjamin Franklin and Larana would meet, supposedly for the first time. And Amy had wanted to know because if you followed the story, they went back in time prior to that and met Benjamin Franklin. So she was curious if the timeline would change and he would know her later. So Amy comes out into the garden and she starts to, sense that something is off too, which is confirmed by Aunt Larana. And here we go. So, fortunately, this is Aunt Larana speaking. Fortunately, I remember exactly what I did before going to the ball the first time. We will do all the same things and see what happens. I continued to stare at my aunt as she shared her original itinerary. First, we will go for a ride into town to get our hair styled. I have an appointment with Colette for 1 o'clock, and I know she will insist on styling your hair too. And don't be alarmed about our future hairdos. Ever since Marie Antoinette started to wear the poof, hairstyles keep getting taller and more elaborate. They will be weaving flowers, feathers, and even stuffed birds and trying to put bird nests into our hair if we let them, Aunt Larana told me with her magical laugh. Afterward, we will have a light meal at Pierre's before heading off to the Palace of Versailles. By the way, I like your dress, mademoiselle, my aunt said with a twinkle in her eyes. I looked down and saw I was wearing a formal ball gown too. Shimmery light pink material tiered around me like the pile of whipped cream on my beignets. I should say on my breakfast beignets. Let's say that. Breakfast. Okay. The fabric had a feel that I did not recognize. Oh, I miss these textiles, my aunt said, as if she were tuning into my thoughts again. I noticed her emotional energy felt like you were biting into a perfectly toasted marshmallow, warm and gooey. Your dress is made of finely spun raw silk. There are small fabric houses here that produce the most absolutely exquisite materials. Let me put materials, plural. It really is a treat being back again. I wish I had time to stop and pick up a few dozen bolts of material to take back with us, Aunt Larana said with a dreamy smile. I could barely believe any of this was happening, yet something deep inside of me knew it was true. I followed my aunt out her back gate and around to the front of the house where a carriage and driver were parked, seemingly waiting for us. I immediately sensed this was a much finer carriage that the one I had driven in Philadelphia, which again felt like an odd thought to be having in this moment, right? Bonjour, Philippe. Sameni Sami. Au salon de Marie, s'il vous plaît, Aunt Larana said in fluent French. I noticed that she used the French pronunciation of my name that she had used. Okay. I didn't know you spoke French, Aunt Larana, I whispered once we had been escorted securely into the carriage. Oui, but I speak very little. I tend to learn by immersion. So let's see if anything comes back to me, my aunt said, settling into the interior of her plush carriage. The French love it when you try, she added, laughing lightheartedly. After about a 15-minute ride, we stopped in front of a small shop and Philippe handed us out of the carriage. Colette, my aunt called as we walked through the front door of the salon, which set off a little tinkling bell. A woman quickly came through a curtained doorway from the back room, and I knew it must be Colette because I immediately felt her heart-centered energy. I stood by watching as she and my aunt hugged in a warm, loving embrace. It's been way too long, my sister Colette smiled, taking in my aunt's presence. But here we are, feeling as if nothing has separated us, Aunt Larana radiated back, still holding on to Colette's hands. This is my niece, Ami. Aunt Larana moved me in front of her to stand before Colette. Ami, this is my dear friend Colette, coiffeur extraordinaire. We are in your gracious hands today. Amy brought us here, Aunt Larana said matter-of-factly. I should say, Amy brought us here, Aunt Larana added. Please go on, Colette said, looking at me inquisitively, waiting for my story. My aunt gave me a look that let me know it was safe to tell Colette everything. I shared our trip to Philadelphia and my heartfelt desire to know if Benjamin would remember my Aunt Larana when they met at the ball tonight. And here we are, I finished, sort of smiling. Well, that is quite a story. I'm glad I have this opportunity to meet you, Ami, Colette said with a whimsical laugh, much like my aunt's. Please have a seat while I prepare, she said, slipping behind the curtain and back behind the curtain into the back room. Wait a minute, slipping behind the curtain into the back room. Aunt Larana, when Colette smiles, she reminds me of the actress Reese Witherspoon. Could they be related? It's possible. The destiny of who we meet and truly get to know in our life remains a mystery until it happens. Just then, out of the corner of my eye, I noticed a young woman close to my age peeking her head around the curtain. Abigail, Aunt Larana said, beckoning her over with the crook of her finger. Come meet my niece, Ami. Even though we just met, I instantly felt a deep, perhaps ancient connection to Abigail that let me know we would always be friends. And this is in quotes. Now that I was some sort of time traveler, I was beginning to believe in ancient connections. I see you have met my niece, Colette said to me when she re-entered the room. Abigail, Why don't you take on me out to that old storage shed and explore? I would like to catch up with Larana in private. I liked how Colette was honest about wanting private time with my aunt. I'm sure we could find something to get into, I said, winking at Abigail as we practically ran outside. As soon as the door closed, Colette lit up. Something has changed in your light body, Larana. You are vibrating at such a high frequency I can barely stand to be near you. You are almost glowing, she said. I could feel her gazing at me intently for the truth, and the truth is what she would get, or at least my version of it. Oh, Colette, my life feels like a ship adrift on the ocean with no other ships in sight. I should not say adrift, perhaps more alone on a mission and waiting to be reunited with others on the same journey. What do you mean, Larana? Colette asked, ready to listen. Not long ago, while in Canton, Ohio, in the year 2020, I spiritually awakened to who I really am, and I realized that Larana was my eternal self. It is now 2025, I should say. I said here 2023, where Ami and I live, I said, pausing and looking at Colette's blue eyes. Looking into Colette's blue eyes. Then everything we believe is true. We can reach a higher energetic state. I know it is possible by looking at you and feeling your energy. Oh, this is certainly a blessed day, Colette said, hugging me with tears in her luminous eyes. The future is not like the time we are living in here, where our sisterhood was alive and connected. The sisterhood seems to have disappeared from history and from the memory of anyone who was ever involved, like it never even existed. I searched the internet, which is a system that has been developed to instantly access knowledge or images for over a year for clues about us, and found nothing. But we are a secret society, Larana, Colette added. Yes, however, it was common knowledge that the Sisterhood of the Golden Rose existed, like the Knights Templar or the Freemasons. In the future, all knowledge of the Sisterhood of the Golden Rose has vanished. Aunt Larana stated, looking intently into Colette's eyes to penetrate her message. Just then, there was a rumble from the back of the shop. Aunt Larana! I heard my name just before the girls burst back into the room. Aunt Larana, Abigail and I have figured out why you are here again, I said, all excited. You are visiting the Sisters of the Golden Rose in other time periods to plant new seeds of awareness, so it will be easier for them to remember who they are in the future. The new energy that you're exposing them to now will make it easier for them when they wake up and experience it again. Oh, I believe you two are right, because I feel it in my heart. This has been the missing piece for me, Aunt Larana said, giving us each a warm hug. I have believed that I was one of the first sisters, if not the first, to wake up and remember, but now I see that I have another role to play. There are still mysteries to be solved, and with your help, who knows where this could all wind up, Aunt Larana said, adding her laugh, which brought lightness along with it. Well, we will have to let any more mysteries wait if you two want your hair coiffed, Colette said, jumping into action. Ginny, Sonia, come quick, she said, clapping her hands to start the momentum they would need. Let's get Mademoiselles Larana and Ami ready for the ball. Okay, that's all I have for today. Thank you so much for helping me with this project, and to be continued. I'll see you next time. Love you all. Bye-bye.